The first sign wasn't cheating. It was how comfortable the lies became.
The first sign something was wrong wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, arriving disguised as a routine disruption rather than a crisis. Evenings that once followed predictable rhythms began stretching later and later into the night without any real explanation. At first, patience filled the gap where concern should have been. It felt easier to assume it was just work stress or ambition rather than let suspicion take hold. The house still looked the same, filled with our familiar furniture and shared memories, but the air felt thinner somehow. Conversations became shorter. Smiles arrived a little late, and affection started to feel scheduled, not natural. Every time the door opened, a different energy came in with it, one that didn't quite match the words offered as reassurance. Eye contact would linger for a shorter time, replaced by distractions that felt intentional. When I asked questions, the answers came back quickly, almost too quickly, polished in a way that discouraged any follow-ups. Comfort was slowly turning into confusion. There was still laughter in the house, but it no longer felt shared. It sounded rehearsed, almost like it was being performed for someone else. I noticed the change in how time was guarded, how the phone never left their side. Privacy became a shield, not just a boundary. Then, during a gathering with friends, a careless comment slipped out. It was a joke meant to entertain others. But it landed like a test, daring a reaction from me. The room responded with awkward laughter, and in that moment, something hardened inside me. I realized that humiliation often arrives disguised as humor. That moment didn't break anything immediately, but it clarified everything. I stopped reacting and started observing. The minute emotions stepped aside, patterns began to reveal themselves. The late nights suddenly aligned too neatly with unexplained expenses on our statements. Consistency exposed the deception. Confrontation felt premature. I didn't want to fight, I wanted certainty, so silence became my strategy. I listened more than I spoke, and details started to emerge without any effort on my part. As their confidence grew, their caution slipped. They started making assumptions. And just like that, the truth began to assemble itself patiently, piece by piece. My denial lost its grip, not with a struggle, but naturally. What hurt the most wasn't the betrayal itself, but the underestimation. I had been mistaken for being weak. So I documented everything quietly, without accusation or anger. The evidence spoke far louder than any confrontation ever could. On the surface, our life continued as normal. But underneath, I was preparing. The house started to feel less like a home and more like a waiting room. Endings, I've learned, often announce themselves quietly long before they arrive. When the moment finally came, it wasn't with shouting or tears. It came with calm certainty. My words were few and direct. Silence filled the space where excuses tried to form. I saw the shock, then the panic, then the bargaining, but none of it changed the outcome. Exposure didn't require me to be cruel. The truth was enough. Once the reality surfaced publicly, the reactions from others were swift. Admiration dissolved into disbelief. Everything that had been hidden collapsed under the weight of scrutiny. It turns out, appearances are incredibly fragile. Any attempt to control the narrative failed immediately. Facts don't negotiate. Distance followed the separation naturally. And peace arrived, though unevenly at first. The house emptied out slowly, and with each item that left, a weight was lifted. The silence in the rooms felt honest for the very first time. I began to rebuild my routines, deliberately. Structure became a grounding force. My work regained its focus without the constant distraction. Purpose returned quietly without any grand announcement. Support arrived from places I never expected. My strength multiplied through consistency. As time passed, the past replayed itself less and less often. The memories started to soften, turning into lessons. I learned that restraint is often mistaken for weakness. It is not. True power waits patiently. It doesn't need to announce itself. What shocked others wasn't some act of retaliation. It was my composure. I didn't take anything that wasn't already mine. I simply stopped giving more than I should have. The narrative shifted without any effort from me. Truth has its own momentum. Late, unsteady attempts at reconciliation came, but my boundaries held firm. I no longer felt the need to explain decisions that were made to protect me. Clarity replaced justification. My life simplified without the constant manipulation shaping every moment. The freedom felt earned. New routines replaced old, destructive habits. Peace became a consistent state, not a conditional one. I learned to rebuild trust within myself first, before ever extending it outward again. Self-respect became the anchor for every choice I made. Occasionally, a wave of anger would surface unexpectedly. I learned to let it pass without trying to control it. Understanding began to replace resentment. Acceptance followed naturally. I learned that humiliation only works if you accept it. Refusing it breaks its power completely. The future expanded without fear. Possibility replaced endurance. I stopped mourning what I thought I had lost and started valuing what I had preserved. I realized that strength doesn't require volume. Silence can carry far more weight. Standing alone no longer frightened me, it steadied me. The person I became was quieter, sharper, and unafraid of the truth. That version of me felt real. Betrayal, I discovered, reveals character much faster than love ever could. Exposure required courage, not cruelty. The story didn't end with revenge, it ended with clarity. Loss became my direction. Pain became my perspective. And in choosing dignity over reaction, I reclaimed a future that could never again be built on lies, humiliation, or silence. Thank you for listening.